Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. This coming Shabbos is a bit of a strange, in some ways difficult Shabbos, as it is also Erev Tisha B'Av. And even though there are no overt signs of mourning on Shabbos, but the knowledge that Tisha B'Av is just hours away does affect the mood of the day. In terms of the technical details and logistics, please see the email that went out earlier that clearly outlines how to properly observe Shabbos, especially the towards the end of Shabbos, Shal Shuddis, and then going into the fast and the schedule of Tisha B'Av after Shabbos. This week's Erev Shabbos Videos Var Torah is sponsored by anonymously with Hoda to Hashem and brachos for Hatzacha and peace for Klal Yisrael. As always, the Erev Shabbos Videos Var Torah is meant to be a merit for the hostages that remain in Gaza, for their well-being and their speedy release or rescue, as well as the protection and success of all soldiers who are fighting, all those who are recovering, all family members who are davening for a loved one, and for all of Israel. And we hope that very soon fast days will be turned to holidays. All worry, sadness, or pain of the Jewish people should be turned into celebration and joy. This week we begin the book of Devarim, and the beginning of the book, Moshe Rabbeinu, speaking to the Jewish people on the doorstep of the land of Israel, reviews for them the important events of their time in the wilderness, and in particular, Moshe Rabbeinu retells them the story of the sin of the spies, which is very relevant for this time of year, for that was the original sin that occurred on Tisha B'Av. And Moshe Rabbeinu recounts to the Jewish people that their parents 40 years ago, after they were told to go march to the land of Israel and conquer it, Vatikravun Elai Kulchem. But all of you came close to me, you approached me, Vatomer, and you said, Nishlacha Anashim Lefanenu, V'yachbru Lanu Es Haaretz. We're not ready just to follow you or follow Hashem. Pick people, men who will go to spy out the land. And of course, ultimately, this was seen as a tragic error and great sin by the Jewish people, which resulted in them wandering the wilderness for 40 years. Rashi, quoting the Medrash, notes that the language of this pasuk is very similar to a pasuk that will appear in next week's parsha, but when we look at them closely, we see an important difference. There, after describing the events of Har Sinai, Moshe Rabbeinu again tells the people in front of him that the previous generation, when they stood at Har Sinai, when they heard and saw the lightning and thunder and God's voice speaking out of the fire, Vatikravun, Eli, the same phrase, Vatikravun Eli kol rashi shiftechem v'ziknechem. All of the heads of your tribes and your elders approached me and said, Hein heranu Hashem Elokeinu es kvodo v'esgadlo. We have seen the glory, the greatness of God as kolo shemanu mitoch ha'esh, His voice coming out of the fire. It's too much. It's too overwhelming. We can't be in such close contact, relationship with God. Moshe Rabbeinu, you go and hear the Torah and then relay it to us. So we have in this week's Parsha the request of the Jews for there to be spies, and next week's Parsha the request of the Jews to not hear from Hashem directly at Har Sinai. And both requests express a certain fear, anxiety, hesitancy. One could both understand or criticize both as a lack of faith, of a lack of a desire of direct connection to Hashem, of wanting to either in our parsha use a natural, this worldly approach and not just follow God, but to have spies about the land, or in next week's parsha the request to have an intermediary between us and Hashem, i.e. Moshe Rabbeinu. However, Rashi, again, just quoting the Medrash, says that there is a great difference between these two requests. And the second request we view as a proper one. Oso kreva haisa hogenes. That approach, that request, that question next week's parsha is seen as a proper one, as opposed to this one in this week's parsha. What is the difference? For in next week's parsha, it says Vatikravun, who approached kol rashi shiftechem v'ziknechem, the head of the tribes and the elders. In other words, Rashi says, Yiladim mechabdin es hazakenim v'shulchum lifneihem. The young people, the young adults, honor the elders and sent them before themselves. Uzakenim mechabdin es harashim l'lechus v'neihem. And then the elders honored the tribal leaders, and then they approached Moshe Rabbeinu, asking in an orderly and respectful manner. Aval kam in our parsha, and when it comes to the request of the spies, it says Vatikravun Elai Kulchem. All of you, just this crowd came and approached me and questioned me, asked, demanded, Be'ir in a great chaotic mixture. Yeladim Dechminas Zakanim, Zakanim Dechminas Rashim, with young people pushing the people who are older than them, the elders pushing the leaders. In other words, the difference between these two questions was not so much in the content, but how they asked the question. We are allowed to ask questions. A child is allowed to ask parents questions, a student to teacher, followers to the leader, and we, every person, every Jew to Hashem. And we're allowed to ask and say, Hashem, I don't understand this, or say, Hashem, this is hard for me. Can we do it another way? Or even say, Hashem, what is the purpose of this? But one critical factor is, how do we ask the question? When it came at Har Sinai and the Jewish people felt this is too much, this is too intense, we need to hear it from you, not from Hashem, they asked in an orderly way. They were respectful. The younger people understood, they were humble and said, you know what, I don't understand this. This doesn't seem right to me, but maybe I don't know better. Maybe I'm missing something. So first, let those who are older than me, with more experience and more wisdom, let them ask. As opposed to in this week's Parsha, everyone felt that they know better. Everyone felt that this must be the right thing. They didn't consider that maybe other people would know more than them. They assumed that they were right. There was a certain disrespect to it. There was a certain chaos to it. It was not asked in a thoughtful manner, thinking through, considering all different possibilities, but it was impulsive. It was without humility. It was without respect. It was without thoughtfulness. And that either was the reason or that showed that it was not a proper question. Tisha B'Av is a day of questions. The Megillah Eicha, how Hashem, how could this be? How could you let this be? What is the purpose of this? And one of the lessons of Eicha is that in the right way, it is okay. It is sometimes necessary. Sometimes Hashem even wants us to ask questions and to ask even hard questions, challenging ones. But we must ask with the right humility, with the understanding that even though I don't understand this and therefore ask about it, I understand that maybe there's something that I don't know and I have to change my thinking. That we ask it in a way that is not rebellious, in a way that is not disrespectful, but has the right respect for Hashem, for our teachers, for elders, and is done in a thoughtful way. That is not just impulsive, that I'm not just making a demand, that I'm not just throwing something out. I'm willing to think and I'm willing to grapple with it, even though it is hard. We're allowed to say, it is hard. I don't understand this. Eicha, how so? For willing to truly, sincerely, respectfully grapple with the questions, then we are allowed to ask questions, as demonstrated by this Rashi, as demonstrated by the entire Megillas Eicha. We hope our prayers for the complete redemption of the world is to have answers to all of our questions. We all have questions that we don't have the answers for. There is no answer in the book of Megillas Eicha. It is a question that still echoes, and we attach our questions to it. But we hope that the day will come soon when Hashem will enlighten us, when Hashem will explain everything to us, when any pain and suffering will be relieved by the answering of all of our questions. May that day come very, very, very soon. I wish everyone a good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom.